Welcome to Exploring the Mystical Side of Life with your host, Michelle Aubin and Linda Lang.
Hi, everyone. This is Linda Lang here with you today on Exploring the Mystical Side of Life. I'm here, as always, with my partner, Michelle Aubin. Michelle, how was your week?
It was great. Some things I want to share with you and with the listeners. How was your week?
My week was really interesting, and I actually came across a few things I would like to talk about too. But I'm kind of thinking that let's focus on yours first.
Okay. All right. I'm happy to dive in. So I had such an expansive experience this week in so many areas. This class I took on intuitive art, it was really mind-blowing, the messages I got. There was this woman named Rachel Archelaus. When she was very young, came up with this method to get in touch with her intuition that she calls intuitive art, and she trains people how to teach this to other people. And so one of her students taught this program online, and I took it this week. First of all, it was just so great to take a class. You know, I get so focused on work and business and that whole mindset, and it was really great to just say, all right, I'm going to do this fun thing. Have you ever done that? You kind of make space for the fun.
I try and do that fairly regularly because it really feeds your soul and inspires you, and the creative light bulb turns on more. It's a fantastic self-care adventure that I like to have regularly in my life.
Yes, and it was an adventure. You know, I have things I do that are self-care things that I always do. This broke it out of the mold a little bit for me because it was so playful. The way you do intuitive art, the instructor walked us through the meaning of each color. So the meaning of pink for you might be different than the meaning of pink for me. The first step is come up with the meaning that our intuition tells us each color means, and we write down the words. It was amazing how easy and clear it was. Like she would say, all right, now you're going to come up with the words for blue. And I had like a rush of words. The next step is to close our eyes, pick a color, and draw on the paper.
With your eyes closed.
With your eyes closed. And when you feel finished, you put that color down, you pick up another color, and you do another scribble or whatever you're led to do. You do as many as you need to do. When you feel complete, you stop. So that's step 2. I have to back up and say the first step is to ask a question. Step 2 only makes sense when you say, okay, help me understand X, Y, and Z, or help me understand the next steps I should take in this area of my life. So I was focusing on my business and purpose, things like that, getting some clarity. And so then I did step 2, which is doing the eyes closed. And then step 3, you open your eyes, you look at the colors, and you look at the definitions and meanings for each color, and you write on your drawing what each color definition is. So like I had a blue scribble and it meant time alone, and I don't have the writing in front of me, but it had something to do with that. So I would write down, okay, time alone, going into my internal world, and you know, that kind of thing. For an example.
Fantastic. That
Yeah,
sounds like a really fun exercise.
it's so fun. So I recommend anyone who is intrigued by this to check out Rachel Archelaus. She has a Facebook group on intuitive drawing, and you could get on her list. I think she has an email training on it, but if you really want to do the training, you can participate in any of her students who do trainings. And then once I wrote all the meanings that were the literal, pink means this, blue means this, and I'd point to the lines. Then I sat with it and I was like, all right, what is this telling me? It started to all make sense, like the location of a different color. There was something in my message to myself from my intuition that had to do with being who I am and channeling that in.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
So a lot of things kind of came together. So I just wanted to share that. There's so many ways to work with our intuition, and it was very accessible and really fun. And I'm still playing with this picture, and I might do another one this weekend just for fun.
What's really interesting is that it's reminiscent of the way I interpret dreams. So if I have a dream, I'll write it out and I'll take the major symbols and I'll ask my unconscious mind what that symbol meant. And then I'll tell the dream again from the perspective of the symbol. And you can actually ask your unconscious mind what that symbol means in regards to relationships or in regards to your business or in regards to your health. So it is a multifaceted message from your higher self into your unconscious to bring you guidance.
I think our higher self is always bringing us guidance, and that's the fun part. So what do you do with the dream? Like, do you have a dream, you wake up from the dream and you say, okay, higher self, what did that flower mean? And do you actually write it down on a piece of paper?
If it isn't clear, if I don't have clear understanding of the dream, and sometimes I do and I don't need to go through the process, but if I'm looking for the meaning, then I won't say higher self, I'll say unconscious mind. What does this mean? And the word will come up. Just like when you asked what the colors represented for you, and all of a sudden you get a stream of words.
Yep.
That's exactly how it happens when you interpret your dream.
That is really cool, because I was actually surprised in doing that exercise with the colors. They would be, let's say, 3 to 7 words that would emerge. And when I was finished, there were no more words. And it was really clear. And it surprised me how easy it was. And then I would go, oh, I've got 5 words. I would say, intuition, are there any more words? And I would kind of hunt around and go, nope, this is good. Or sometimes it would say, yeah, add one more concept.
You have to leave a little bit of space to receive the message, right? You can't be just totally in your thinking mind to allow that flow to come in. But you set the intent with your conscious mind and then just leave space and receive. And you know if it feels right, if it's finished, if there's more that you need to uncover. It's a fascinating way to work with your intuition.
Yeah, and it was easier than I thought, and it was fast. It just was a conversation.
So, Michelle, what are you going to do with the message that you received?
I've already been acting on it. I'm not going to go into all the details of the picture because that might not interest everyone. But I think that the part that is really interesting to me was this, particularly the green spiral, and about bringing in more of who I am. In the past couple of days, have been having conversations with family members that are more authentic and kind of soul-based, and it's been mind-blowing. And I'm just keeping this idea of continuing to open. And again, there's other things the picture told me to do, like one of them is have more fun, right? So there was like another color that was off to the other side. It was telling me have more fun. That's what I'm going to do. So I just have enjoyed sharing this with people, and I just love hearing your story, Linda, about how you're doing this as well with your dreams. And there's just so many ways we can tap into our intuition and play with it and have fun. So I appreciate your story too.
I think I'm going to get my paper and pencil crayons and play.
Love it. Love it.
Thank
Have
you.
fun. Yeah, tell us on another episode what happens as a result. That would be fun to hear.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Yeah. So, what's been going on in your week? You alluded to a few things.
You asked me earlier if I took time out to play, and I actually did a course this week as well. I did a spoon bending class online, and I had so much fun. It was fantastic.
That sounds so fascinating. Of course, I'm thinking of The Matrix when Neo goes to the Oracle. You've seen that movie, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
I think I've had a few inner journeys like the Matrix.
Yeah. There is no spoon.
There is no spoon.
So what was that
Exactly.
like? What was it like?
Well, it was really cool, and it was a lot easier than I thought it would be, which is the whole point of the experience. The woman who ran the course is Miche Meisner. She runs a Spoon Benders Cafe on Facebook, and she's a coach. And her whole point has to do with how you can shift your reality and what's possible for you by shifting your beliefs, which is something that my work follows too. You know, my
Yeah.
tagline on my website is open your mind to new possibilities. If you
Yeah.
can't think it's possible for you, then how are you ever going to achieve it? So it was wonderful to actually do this kind of a fun way of actually manipulating reality in your mind and then having it manipulate in your hands, like in 3D reality. So I bent my spoon. I'm a newbie spoon bender. Okay, that was the first time. I'll have to go down to the Goodwill store and pick up some more spoons that I can play with. But there was a woman there who had a knife and bent like a butter knife.
Wow.
Miche and there was a woman on the call. They could bend their spoon in like corkscrews.
Wow.
Like it was just phenomenal.
And these are ordinary kitchen silverware.
Stainless steel.
Stainless steel.
Yeah.
Corkscrews. I have not seen that. That's really interesting.
It's pretty impressive, let me tell you.
So, what's the rundown of how you do this? What's the rundown? Do you imagine it in your mind and then channel it through your hands, or
Well,
what do you
kind of
do?
not really. Like you connect, you feel the spoon, and you kind of develop relationship between your fingers and the spoon. And then you just go into this really zen place.
What do you
And
mean by Zen?
zen, it's like you're not thinking about bending the spoon. You're not thinking anything really. You're just kind of inside yourself. I was listening to Miche as she spoke, and I just went and bent my spoon in probably like triangle, the top of a triangle. And I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. And she asked me in the training what changed. And it's hard to explain an energetic shift, you know? You go into a training and you're thinking, wow, this is really cool. And can I do it? Will I not be able to do it? You're trying to get out of that whole mindset. And it's not really about doing it. You're just interacting with your environment. The spoon happens to be in your environment. And when you're in that place of oneness, maybe, I don't know, because it wasn't a guided meditation, you're just like, just happens.
So, what you're talking about is no effort, getting
No
into the
effort.
no
Yeah.
effort and no attachment. Is there a piece about no attachment to the outcome?
There is a big piece because as soon as you're attached, then you're in that dichotomy of can I do it? Can I not do it?
Yeah.
What if I do it? What if I can't do it?
Which is all about questioning. So you're in a non-questioning place, you're in a non-efforting,
And you're just open.
non-outcome, and
Yeah.
you communicate with the spoon.
Through your touch,
Yeah.
right?
And then how do you know when you're going to be like, okay, now bend?
How do you know? It just happens. It's really fun.
I love it, the whole thing, because the no efforting is what flow is. And we can talk about these concepts, but we're talking about them from limited language. You're talking about a feeling. And so somehow the instructor was able to get you to that place. She was able to walk you through to get to that place of trusting, relaxing, not efforting. It all sounds very, very zen.
So just imagine if you can get to that place and bend your spoon, what kind of shifts can you create in your life when you have faith that all things are connected and all things are as they're supposed to be, and you are a naturally abundant person, always connected to your divinity? I mean, what could be possible? Just about anything.
Anything. And it will be as effortless as the spoon.
Yes, and it will be as effortless as the spoon.
So, did that experience and that question inspire anything in you? Any kind of like, oh, wouldn't it be fun to play with my reality in this way or in that way?
Interestingly enough, it didn't do that, although what it did for me was really heighten the awareness of being really centered and in my heart or in my own body, and having that kind of really peaceful, calm, zen energy that I connect to all the time. But just knowing that when I'm in that place, the seemingly impossible is possible, that anything is possible. And so I've been able to get there consciously, choose to go there more often.
Okay, so that's something that class has helped you to do since then, as you more consciously return to that feeling.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, I'm going to go and pick up some more spoons because I want to play some more. And it's fun, and it really does help your mind get the understanding that things aren't as rigid as we see them here in the 3D dimension.
They're not, I mean, even if you use scientific thinking, this is what you're talking about. It does not go against any of the laws of science. And yet, somehow, I know at one point felt like, well, I end at my skin, and my skin is a thing. And whatever's outside of my skin is not the same thing as what's inside my skin. But then when you really think about molecules and matter and what we breathe in and breathe out, just to take that, or when you smell a scent, you're taking in molecules. So, all right, there was a bottle of essential oils, and I opened the cap, and now I can smell that bottle. All right, what has actually happened? The molecules from that bottle that are a liquid thing and look solid enough to be a visible liquid have left and entered my nose and entered my brain and entered my system. So now I am made up of some of those molecules, and I can detect it with my senses. So now I am part oil, essential oil, right? It's like, why do I walk around thinking, well, I'm this but not that? Okay, that just showed me I am made up of the things I smell and the things I cook for dinner that I smell, or someone else cooks for dinner that I smell. All right, they're entering me. Well, what about oxygen? What about moisture? What about put lotion on my skin? So some of that enters my bloodstream. you just kind of go with these thoughts of, well, what does that really mean? And what does it mean when there's elements in the air that are also entering through my skin? And we're not even talking energy and electromagnetics. We're just talking molecules.
Well, I keep thinking as you're talking, Michelle, about Einstein and his experiments with light and discovering there were light molecules and waves,
Yes.
that they were both. And science didn't think there could be both, that it had to be one or the other. And maybe that's the same concept you're talking about when you think my skin is a thing, and that's that. Well, maybe it's not. Maybe it's a particle and a wave.
Oh yeah, well yeah, now we can talk quantum physics.
There you go. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I was sort of taught just molecular communication. My skin is made of molecules communicating with the air around me, the fog, the rain, the whatever's in the air. And you're bringing it to another level, which is also fun to think about, particles and waves. Maybe that is how everything transforms and shifts, and maybe we're doing that all the time.
Maybe we are. I'm confident we're communicating with our environment all the time,
All the
whether
time.
we know it or not.
And there's a lot of stuff now coming out about how what we see or think we see in our environment is actually a projection. There's so many interesting scientific conversations going on that are not even in the esoteric realm, but these are scientists talking about my eye is distorting information and then I project it back out. And that's kind of fun to explore too. What are we really seeing when we see things? And the color thing is what really resonates too. Just to get back to what you talked about with Einstein, this idea that humans only see a fraction of what is on the spectrum of light and energy waves. We give so much credence to our eyesight as giving us information and facts about the world, but in fact, it's a limited perception. And if I walk around acknowledging that, it does open me up to all these other sources of information and validating those as well.
And who's to say the color that you see is exactly the same color that I see and the person next to me, and so on and so on?
Right.
There
Yes.
could very well be a subjective aspect to color, or maybe even, some people are colorblind, right?
Mhm.
Or can only see some spectrums of color. But even people who have the full human spectrum of color, you don't know that their brain is interpreting it exactly the same way as the next person, which is exactly like life. We all interpret life and life experiences completely uniquely. There's not another person standing in the same shoes with the same experiences and the same perspective, looking at life in the same way as you do.
Which ties back to the workshop I did, the drawing. Everyone's intuition is telling them that pink means different things. And not just in the way the color looks to the eye, but in that experiment or that exercise, pink doesn't mean the same thing to everyone. And blue doesn't mean the same thing to everyone. So that's cool too. That's cool too.
That's very cool. This is a big, beautiful world to explore.
It really is. And I love that we're doing it together, Linda. And I love that our listeners are joining us in this. We can just continue to have fun with these topics. And it sort of feels like the right place to wrap up for today, this big, beautiful world. We're going to keep exploring it together.
Fantastic.
All right. Well, have a great week, everyone. A great day and a great week. We'll join you next time.